A city once bloomed in the heart of a barren desert. Its secret was not magic, but water. This is the story of the forgotten engineers of Petra, masters of a hidden hydraulic system that turned stone into a sustainable oasis. By the end, you will understand the brilliant principles that allowed a community to flourish against impossible odds. How did they capture powerful seasonal waters to fuel their fountains? Why were their techniques lost for centuries? What does their ancient wisdom teach us about thriving in a thirsty world today? Does true innovation lie in conquering nature or learning to work with its rhythms? A narrow crack in the earth forms the only entrance, a winding canyon passage so deep and shadowed it feels like a journey into another world. For nearly a mile, towering sandstone walls block out the sun, their swirling hues of rose and ochre a silent prelude to the spectacle ahead. This is the Siq, the sacred gateway to Petra, and it was designed to inspire awe. The path twists and turns, building anticipation until, at the final bend, the canyon frames a breathtaking view. There, carved directly into the face of the cliff, is the treasury, its intricate facade glowing in the filtered light. This was the grand reveal for every ancient traveler, a statement of power and artistry from a people who mastered their environment. Petra was the capital of the Nabatean kingdom, a tribe of nomadic Arabs who settled this valley and transformed themselves into the undisputed masters of the Arabian trade routes. Their immense wealth, however, did not spring from gold or gems hidden in the mountains. It came from their revolutionary ability to create a permanent, reliable oasis in the heart of a challenging desert. Imagine the value of a single cup of water to a caravan of traders and their camels after weeks crossing barren lands. Petra offered that and so much more. It became a bustling crossroads, a hub where spices from the east, silks from the north, and incense from the south were traded. This convergence of cultures and commerce demanded not just wealth, but profound ingenuity. The city's very location, a natural fortress surrounded by arid mountains, presented a clear challenge. To survive and prosper here, the Nabateans had to solve the fundamental problem of water. Their entire society, their grandeur, their very existence, was built upon an engineering miracle that would turn seasonal downpours into a sustainable life source. This was the challenge that sparked their genius, paving the way for one of the ancient world's most sophisticated and overlooked hydraulic systems. The desert sun offered no quarter, and rain was an infrequent, almost dramatic guest. In this landscape, water did not fall gently. It arrived in powerful bursts, transforming dry riverbeds known as wadis into rushing currents in a matter of minutes, only to vanish back into the thirsty earth just as quickly. For any society, this cycle of dry spells and downpours presented a profound challenge. A sudden surge of water could erase years of work, while a season without rain meant certain difficulty. The genius of the Nabateans began with a fundamental shift in perspective. They chose not to battle this powerful rhythm, but to listen to it, to understand its logic. Their first principle of survival was a deep acceptance of the desert's nature. They observed where the water wanted to go during a storm, and instead of building walls to stop it, they built systems to guide it. This was not an attempt to conquer the environment, but a masterful collaboration. Think of it like catching a fleeting opportunity. The water was there, but it was moving too fast and too forcefully to be of any use. The challenge was to slow it down, to persuade it to stay. This required an intimate knowledge of the local hydrology, the way water flowed over the rock and through the canyons. They mapped the entire watershed surrounding Petra, identifying every channel and slope that funneled the precious seasonal rains toward their city. This deep understanding of the land's own pathways was the essential foundation for everything that followed. It turned a problem of scarcity into a question of timing and control, setting the stage for an engineering solution that was both simple and brilliant. How do you catch a flash flood? The answer lay in a network of collection strategies so effective it would transform the desert itself. The desert did not give its water quietly. A distant rumble of thunder could signal a sudden transformation, as torrential rains miles away sent a wall of water rushing through dry canyons. In moments, a peaceful wadi could become a churning, powerful force, capable of reshaping the landscape and carrying away anything in its path. Most civilizations would see only the danger in such an event. The Nabateans, however, saw a fleeting opportunity. They recognized that this sudden surge was the desert's way of delivering its entire seasonal bounty all at once. Their survival depended on capturing it. The second principle of their hydraulic genius was this radical act of working with the flash flood itself. They built not to block the water's power, but to gently persuade it to change its course. Across the mouths of key wadis leading into the Petra basin, they constructed low, robust diversion dams. These were not massive walls meant to hold back an entire sea, but cleverly engineered barriers. Their purpose was to slow the water's frantic pace just enough, lifting the level of the onrushing flood so that it would spill into carefully placed inlet channels. Think of it as a traffic system for water. The main, powerful force of the flood was allowed to continue down its natural path, now slightly calmer. But a portion of that life-giving water was diverted at the last possible moment, ushered sideways into a man-made channel that ran along the canyon wall, safe from the chaos below. In the Wadi Mataha, for example, a dam still stands today, a testament to this precise calculation. It did not fight the flood, it negotiated with it. The engineering was deceptively simple. These dams and diversion walls were built from locally quarried stone, often set without mortar, yet their placement was a product of profound hydrological understanding. They had to be strong enough to withstand immense initial pressure, but shaped in such a way that they guided the water rather than resisting it outright. This initial capture was the most critical, delicate step. A mistake in design could mean the entire system was lost in a single storm. But when it worked, it transformed a powerful event into the city's primary replenishment cycle. It was the masterful beginning of a longer, more intricate journey, guiding wild water toward a state of calm utility. This captured water now began a carefully orchestrated descent. From the highland dams, a vast and hidden web of channels guided it toward the heart of the city. This was not a haphazard collection of ditches, but a fully integrated network, a master plan etched into the landscape that connected the mountains to the monuments in a seamless, life-giving flow. Think of it as the city's circulatory system, an engineering marvel operating just beneath the surface of daily life. Its design encompassed every stage, from initial collection in the distant wadis to final distribution inside urban homes and lush gardens. Every component had a purpose, working in concert to create a resilient and efficient whole. Archaeologists studying the site have noted that the entire system reflects a city-wide vision, a testament to a profound understanding of topography and hydrology. The Nabateans did not just build where it was convenient, they built where the land itself dictated the water should go. The major components of this network were both bold and meticulous. After the diversion dams captured the floodwaters, transmission channels carved directly into the cliff faces began the long, gentle journey downhill. The most famous of these channels runs through the Siq itself, that breathtaking entrance corridor. As visitors walked through the narrow canyon, they were unknowingly flanked by a modest stone conduit, a silent companion ensuring the city's survival. This channel, along with others like it, relied on a precise, consistent gradient. It dropped just enough over its long course to keep the water moving steadily toward the city center, never so steep that it would erode the channel walls, nor so flat that it would stagnate. This gravity-fed flow was the network's silent engine. Finally, the water reached its many destinations, held in numerous cisterns and reservoirs carved directly into the soft sandstone or built from stone blocks. These storage units were the system's strategic reserves, ensuring that a sudden downpour in one season could supply the city for many dry months to come. This integrated approach meant that water could be reliably allocated for every need, from essential drinking and daily use to agriculture that fed the population, and even to spectacular display in public fountains and pools that showcased the city's mastery over its environment. The entire operation was a symphony of coordinated parts, and at its core were the specific conduits that made this seamless flow possible. Walking through the shadowed coolness of the Siq, your attention would be captured by the towering cliffs, not the quiet companion at your side. Carved directly into the sandstone wall, a narrow channel flowed continuously, a silent artery of life. This was the Siq Conduit, the most vital watercourse in all of Petra. For over a kilometer, this channel carried a steady stream from the Moses Spring, known locally as Ain Musa, directly into the urban heart of the city. Its existence transformed the dramatic entrance from a mere passageway into a functional marvel, a promise of sustenance delivered with every step a visitor took. The construction of this conduit was a masterclass in patient engineering. In some sections, workers carved the channel directly from the living rock of the canyon wall, creating a seamless, permanent groove. In other places, they lined it with waterproof ceramic pipes or built low walls of stone and plaster to guide the water's path. The true genius, however, lay in its nearly imperceptible slope. The Nabatean engineers designed the conduit with a gentle, consistent gradient, dropping just a few centimeters every meter of its length. This precise calculation ensured a steady, manageable flow. The water moved with enough force to prevent stagnation, but slowly enough to avoid eroding the channel itself. It was a perfect balance, achieved through an intimate understanding of gravity and topography. To maintain this crucial lifeline, the Nabateans built periodic access points. These small, square openings along the conduit allowed workers to enter the channel, clear out any silt or debris carried by the water, and perform essential repairs. This proactive maintenance was key to the system's legendary reliability. They also implemented clever features to protect the water's quality. At points where side canyons met the Siq, they constructed small cross dams and settling basins. These features would catch the sediment from occasional runoff, preventing it from clouding the main supply in the conduit. The water that reached the city was remarkably clean, a testament to their foresight. This reliable flow fed the very life of Petra. It supplied public fountains where residents could gather water, and it was channeled into the homes of the elite, some of which featured private baths and even small garden pools. The constant, gentle sound of water in a desert city was the ultimate symbol of Nabatean control and prosperity. Yet, the journey of the water did not end there. The steady flow from the Siq Conduit and other channels presented its own final challenge. How could this seasonal bounty, this carefully captured gift, be preserved to last through the long, rainless months that defined the desert? Deep within the ruins, archaeologists uncovered something that defied expectations. Lying beneath the dust were not just open channels, but carefully crafted terracotta pipes. This was a technology of precision, a network designed to command water in ways that seemed to contradict the very nature of gravity. While their open channels relied on a gentle downhill slope, these pressurized pipelines allowed the Nabateans to push water uphill, across ravines, and directly into the heart of the city's most elevated structures. It was a hydraulic leap that placed them centuries ahead of their time. The creation of these pipes was an art in itself. Artisans would form the local clay into cylindrical sections, each about the length of a forearm and tapered at one end. This simple design was the key to their success. Workers would fit the narrow end of one pipe into the wider mouth of the next, creating a continuous, snug joint. To ensure a perfect seal against leaks, they coated the connections with a thick layer of bitumen, a natural tar that was readily available in the region. This careful manufacturing process resulted in a strong, durable, and watertight conduit that could withstand significant internal pressure. Think of it like a garden hose. When you block the end with your thumb, the water inside builds up pressure and can spray a great distance. The Nabateans harnessed this same basic principle. By channeling water from a higher source into these sealed pipes, they created a pressurized system. If the pipeline then dipped down into a valley and had to climb up the other side, the built-up pressure would force the water to rise, often to heights that surprised early researchers. This innovation was not just for show. Engineering historians note that these pipelines likely supplied water to upper-level gardens or to the ornate nymphaeum, a grand public fountain. Imagine the spectacle of a cascading waterfall or a lush hanging garden in the middle of a desert city, all powered by this hidden, pressurized network. This sophisticated use of hydraulic pressure actually predates the more famous elevated aqueducts of the Romans, showcasing a unique and advanced understanding of fluid dynamics. The ability to send water on command to where it was needed most, not just where gravity easily allowed, represented the peak of Nabatean hydraulic engineering. It solved the final distribution problem, but it also created a greater one. With such precise control over moving water, how could they possibly store enough of it to make their city truly resilient against the long, dry seasons that defined their world? This silent, pressurized network delivered water on command, but the desert's ultimate test was not flow, but time. The true measure of Nabatean genius lies in what happened to the water once they persuaded it to stay. Deep within the city's stone heart, they carved vast, cavernous reservoirs, immense cisterns capable of holding millions of liters of water, all captured during the brief, furious rainy seasons. These were not mere holes in the ground. They were the absolute cornerstone of Petra's water security, the strategic reserves that turned a seasonal bounty into a year-round lifeline. Their construction was a science in itself. Workers would hollow out massive chambers in the soft sandstone bedrock, then meticulously line the interior walls with several layers of a special, waterproof plaster. This plaster was a sophisticated mix of lime and crushed pottery, creating a hard, impermeable seal that prevented precious water from seeping back into the thirsty earth. Every drop was accounted for, every loss prevented by design. The location of these cisterns was equally deliberate. They were strategically placed on high ground, both within the urban center and in the surrounding hills. This elevated positioning was the final, elegant link in their gravity-fed system. From these high storage points, water could be released to flow down through channels and pipes to public fountains, garden terraces, and homes at lower levels, all without any need for pumps or external power. It was a simple, brilliant, and utterly reliable method of distribution. The scale of their ambition is vividly clear at places like El Biyara, a towering mesa overlooking Petra. Here, they carved truly massive cisterns into the summit. Researchers suggest these high-altitude reservoirs were crucial for supporting trade caravans, providing a guaranteed water supply for countless travelers and their animals after the long, arduous journey through the desert. But the system was also deeply personal. Alongside these great public works, smaller, private cisterns were carved beneath the courtyards of individual homes. A family could collect rainwater from their own rooftops and store it for their private use, creating a resilient, decentralized network that empowered the entire community. This combination of monumental public infrastructure and private provision created a society that was not just surviving but thriving. The water stored in these stone vaults did more than quench thirst. It fueled the city's economy, its agriculture, and its very spirit. It allowed gardens to bloom and fountains to play in sun-baked plazas. This careful stewardship of a fleeting resource raises a pivotal question. With such a vast and complex system delivering life to every corner of the city, who were the minds behind its creation and, more importantly, its ongoing management? How did they decide who received this most precious of gifts and in what amount? The steady flow of water through Petra was more than an engineering marvel. It was the invisible architecture of power itself. In a city carved from desert rock, control over this life-giving resource defined the entire social order, from the king in his palace to the family in their home. The evidence etched into the stone suggests a highly centralized system, likely managed directly by the Nabatean monarchy or a specialized class of hydraulic administrators. These were the unseen governors of Petra's prosperity, the individuals who decided where the water went and when. Their decisions shaped the city's economy, its political influence, and its very survival. The distribution network itself reveals a clear hierarchy of access. The most reliable and abundant supplies were channeled toward symbols of royal authority and economic might. Elaborate pipelines fed the monumental gardens and ornate pools of the royal palace, a display of wealth and control that was impossible to ignore. The great public fountains, or nymphea, were not just sources of drinking water, they were powerful propaganda. A traveling merchant, witnessing cool, clean water cascading in the heart of a desert crossroads, would receive an unmistakable message about the stability and capability of the Nabatean state. This calculated generosity was a strategic investment. By ensuring that trade caravans had ample water for their people and animals, the rulers guaranteed that Petra remained the indispensable hub of the incense route. The lifeblood of commerce flowed as smoothly as the water in its channels. But what about the ordinary citizens? The system also accounted for them, revealing a sophisticated understanding of community needs. Smaller channels branched off from the main conduits, supplying neighborhood fountains where residents could gather their daily water. Even more telling are the private cisterns carved beneath the courtyards of many homes. This dual approach created a balance between public provision and private responsibility. A family could collect and store rainwater from their own rooftop, giving them a degree of independence while still relying on the centralized system for their primary needs. This was not merely a technical achievement, it was a social contract carved in stone and plaster. The fair and reliable allocation of water would have been essential to prevent conflict and maintain civic peace in such a challenging environment. How did they enforce this delicate balance? The absence of widespread evidence for internal strife over water suggests they managed it brilliantly. The entire model points to a society that understood its most precious resource was also its greatest source of vulnerability. By centralizing control while providing for communal and private needs, the Nabateans built a resilient system that supported both grand ambition and daily life. This intricate web of pipes and policies raises a deeper question about the people behind the plan. Who were the master architects who first envisioned turning a desert canyon into a hydraulic machine? The identity of Petra's master builders remains one of history's quietest secrets. Their names are absent from the grand facades, their personal stories erased by time, yet their intellect is permanently etched into the canyon walls. These were the Nabatean engineers, a class of anonymous professionals whose empirical genius rivaled that of any ancient civilization. They were not mere laborers with tools, but hydrologists who could read a watershed like a map, geologists who understood the strength and character of sandstone, and master masons who shaped an entire city with breathtaking precision. Their work suggests a deep, accumulated knowledge passed meticulously from one generation to the next. Without this lineage of skilled individuals, the desert would have reclaimed Petra within a single generation. We can reconstruct their world through the tools and marks they left behind. Archaeological excavations have uncovered their essential kit, simple in form yet revolutionary in application. Iron tools and stone hammers were used to carve the intricate channels and cisterns from the living rock. Plumb bobs and leveled strings allowed them to establish the perfectly gentle gradients crucial for their water channels, a task requiring immense patience and skill. Most impressively, they achieved this without any of our modern instruments. Their surveying was done with remarkable ingenuity, likely using simple sighting poles and water-filled trenches to determine level across vast distances. This hands-on, practical knowledge was their true technology, a sophisticated understanding of physics and mathematics developed through centuries of direct observation and refinement. This mastery would have commanded immense respect within Nabatean society. In a kingdom whose wealth and survival were literally channeled through their work, these engineers were not invisible workers, they were vital state assets. Their ability to guarantee a permanent water source in an arid land would have placed them near the center of power, advisors to kings and sheikhs. Their work was a sacred trust, intertwining practical necessity with deep cultural and spiritual belief. Water was not merely a resource, it was a divine gift, and the systems they built to manage it were a form of reverence, a way of honoring the gods who provided it. This connection between engineering and belief might explain the flawless execution and enduring quality of their constructions. They were building for eternity, crafting a legacy in stone and water that would long outlive their own memory. Their silent, enduring achievement forces us to ask what other profound knowledge, what other solutions to human challenges have been lost simply because the masters behind them were never given a name. For the Nabateans, every spring was a miracle. In a world defined by aridity, a place where water emerged naturally from the stone was not merely a resource, it was a manifestation of the divine. The very act of finding and collecting water was therefore a spiritual practice, a form of communion with the powers believed to control this most precious gift. This deep, sacred connection transformed their entire hydraulic system from a simple feat of engineering into a living expression of faith. The Moses Spring, known as Ain Musa, was far more than the primary water source for the Siq Conduit. Local tradition and archaeological evidence suggest it was a revered site, a place where the boundary between the earthly and the spiritual worlds felt thin. It is easy to understand why, after the silence and dryness of the desert, the sudden sight and sound of fresh water pouring from the rock would have been a powerful, emotional experience, a clear sign of supernatural favor. This worldview meant that controlling water was not just a technical challenge, it was a religious duty. The engineers who designed the channels and cisterns were not only serving their king, they were serving their deities, ensuring that the divine gift was properly honored, collected, and distributed. This holistic philosophy is physically embodied in the Garden Temple complex. Situated near the main city center, this was not a secluded sanctuary, but an integrated ritual space where water was the central element of worship. The temple featured elaborate pools and water channels as part of its sacred architecture. Here, the sight and sound of flowing water, the the lush vegetation it sustained, and the rituals performed by priests all worked together. It was a deliberate recreation of a sacred oasis, a miniature paradise that mirrored the Nabateans' greater achievement in the Petra basin itself. Altars and shrines were consistently placed near springs and major water conduits, physically linking the places of prayer with the sources of life. This intertwining of faith and function reveals a culture that saw no separation between the practical and the spiritual. To manage water was to participate in a divine order. Their sophisticated hydraulic architecture was not just pipes and plaster, it was a form of scripture written in stone, a permanent prayer for sustenance offered back to the powers that provided it. This profound relationship with their environment sustained them for centuries, making their eventual transition all the more thought-provoking. What could possibly cause such a resilient and spiritually grounded civilization to falter, leading to the slow departure from their engineered paradise? A silent, weathered wall of stone still stands guard across a desert canyon. To the untrained eye, it might look like a simple rock pile, but this was the Nabateans' first and most critical move in their high-stakes game with the desert. These were the Great Barrier Dams, massive structures built directly across the main wadis that funneled water toward Petra. Their primary job was not to create a permanent lake, but to meet the flash flood head-on and fundamentally change its behavior. When a wall of water came thundering down the canyon, these dams absorbed the initial, powerful impact. Their immense weight and clever construction dissipated that raw force, protecting the city's heart from severe erosion. But they were far more than just shields. Their true genius was one of redirection. By blocking the main channel, the dam would raise the water level, forcing a portion of the torrent to spill sideways into a waiting diversion channel carved high on the canyon wall. This was the moment of capture where wild floodwater was persuaded to enter the civilized network of channels and begin its journey toward the reservoirs. The scale of this operation becomes clear at sites like the Wadi Musa Dam. This structure, one of the largest, was a formidable barrier of local sandstone blocks, meticulously fitted together. The Nabateans were masters of dry stone masonry, often building without any mortar at all. The blocks were so precisely shaped and strategically interlocked that their own immense weight and friction made the dam a single, cohesive unit, resilient against the tremendous pressure of rushing water. Yet their dam system was also nuanced, featuring different types for different tasks. Alongside these great barrier dams, they constructed numerous smaller check dams. You can still see these terraced steps built across smaller tributaries and slopes. Their purpose was twofold. First, they slowed the flow of runoff during a storm, preventing smaller streams from gathering into a single, powerful surge by the time they reached the main wadi. Second, they acted as sediment traps. As the water slowed behind each small dam, it would drop the sand and silt it was carrying, effectively cleaning itself before entering the main system. This not only protected the channels from clogging, but also created pockets of fertile soil that could be used for small-scale agriculture on these terraced slopes. This entire network, from the largest barrier to the smallest check dam, was a testament to a philosophy of proactive, gentle control. The engineers were not trying to stop the desert's power. They were subtly guiding it, taming the torrents not with brute strength but with an intimate understanding of physics and landscape. It makes you wonder, with such a perfect system for capturing and moving water, what kind of society did this engineering miracle actually support within the city walls? The soft whisper of water flowing through the Siq was a sound earned by extraordinary precision. Every meter of those rock-cut channels was a testament to an engineer's patient hand, a masterpiece of controlled descent carved directly into the cliff face. Achieving this was their paramount challenge. A slope too steep would cause the water to rush and erode the channel walls. A slope too flat would allow it to stagnate, becoming undrinkable. The solution was a gradient so slight it seems impossible, often a mere 0.5% drop. Over a distance of 100 meters, the channel would descend only about the height of a single step. This was not guesswork, it was the result of sophisticated, albeit simple, surveying tools. Workers used water-filled trenches as long leveling guides, confirming that their path was true. They employed the frame level, a simple wooden tool that, when placed on the channel floor, would show if one end was even a fraction higher than the other. Using sighting poles and aligned markers, they could extend this perfect slope for kilometers, navigating the twists and turns of the canyon with unwavering accuracy. The channels leading to the royal tombs showcase this skill on an elevated stage. Here, water was not just a utility, it was a symbol of status, delivered to the city's most prestigious monuments via these impeccably carved conduits. Workers would first cut a narrow pilot channel, then gradually widen and deepen it, constantly checking the grade. The final surface was often smoothed to a finish that minimized friction, allowing the water to glide with maximum efficiency. This rock cut method offered a distinct advantage, its durability born from unity with the landscape. The channel was not built upon the stone, it was formed from the stone itself, resistant to the elements and meant to last for centuries. Yet such permanence was only part of the solution. For the many sections where carving into solid rock was not feasible, the Nabateans turned to another ancient technology, one that required a different kind of artistry to bind their system together. The true test of their system was not in moving water, but in keeping it from vanishing into the desert's embrace. Within the cool darkness of a Petra cistern, you would find not rough stone, but a smooth, glassy lining that felt almost like pottery. This was the Nabateans' second great innovation, a chemical mastery as vital as their structural engineering. They transformed their reservoirs and pipes from porous containers into perfectly sealed vessels using two remarkable materials, bitumen and a uniquely formulated plaster. Without this invisible layer of protection, their entire hydraulic network would have lost its vital supply back into the ground within days. Bitumen, a thick, naturally occurring tar, was their primary sealant. They sourced this valuable waterproofing agent from seeps near the Dead Sea, transporting it over significant distances to Petra. Its application was a precise art. Workers would heat the solid bitumen until it became a viscous liquid, then carefully paint it onto the joints of their terracotta pipes or use it to line the interiors of smaller cisterns. When it cooled and hardened, it created a flexible, impermeable barrier that could withstand the constant pressure of stored water without cracking. For larger reservoirs, they developed a specialized plaster that was both strong and resilient. Analysis of surviving samples reveals a sophisticated recipe of slaked lime mixed with crushed pottery and sand. This was not a simple mortar, it was an engineered composite. The lime provided the binding agent, while the fine, angular particles of crushed pottery, known as coxiopsto, filled the microscopic gaps in the plaster matrix, creating an incredibly dense and watertight seal. The Nabateans applied this plaster in multiple, thin layers, burnishing the final coat to a hard, smooth finish that minimized evaporation and prevented algae growth. The effectiveness of their chemistry is undeniable. In numerous cisterns that have survived 2,000 years of abandonment, the plaster linings remain largely intact. You can still see the smooth, grayish surface that once held millions of liters of water for the city. This durability was no accident. It was the product of a deep, practical understanding of material science. They knew how to manipulate local resources to solve a fundamental problem, ensuring that every precious drop captured from a fleeting storm was preserved for the long, dry season. This meticulous sealing of their water supply reveals a society thinking far beyond mere survival. It speaks to a drive for perfection, for creating a system so efficient and reliable that it could support not just life, but a flourishing urban culture. With their water securely contained, the question shifts from how they stored it to how they lived with it, and what this engineered abundance made possible within the city walls. The gentle music of flowing water was the ultimate luxury in a desert capital. In Petra, the same channels that supplied drinking water also fed spectacular public fountains and serene garden pools, transforming the city's soundscape. These were not mere decorations, they were powerful statements. The most elaborate of these features was the Nymphaeum, a monumental public fountain where water cascaded over ornate stone carvings into a large basin. For a traveler arriving from the desolate trade routes, this spectacle of abundance was a profound demonstration of Nabatean harmony with the natural world. It was a performance of cultural achievement designed to inspire and impress. The water's constant flow created cool, humid microclimates in sun-baked plazas, offering pockets of physical relief that reinforced the city's reputation as a true oasis. This was infrastructure reimagined as public art, a deliberate blurring of the line between survival and splendor. The Great Temple Complex took this concept even further, integrating a large, central pool into its sacred and civic space. Here, water reflected the grand architecture, doubling its visual impact and creating a sense of tranquil grandeur. The reflective surface of the pool would have mirrored the towering columns and intricate facades, amplifying the temple's majesty. For the Nabatean elite, these displays were essential. A private villa with its own garden pool was not just a comfortable residence, it was a symbol of status, a clear indicator that its owners commanded a generous and reliable share of the city's most precious resource. This artistic use of water reveals a civilization confident in its own abundance. The ability to use vast quantities of water for beauty and leisure, rather than strict necessity, signaled that their hydraulic system was not just functional, but exceptionally robust. It was the hallmark of a society at its peak, a culture that had moved beyond mere survival to cultivate an environment of refined beauty. Yet this very confidence, this reliance on a perfectly balanced system, also contained the seeds of its own fragility. Such a complex and interdependent network was not just an achievement, it was a profound vulnerability, waiting for the moment when the delicate balance would be disrupted. The city's heart beat with the steady rhythm of controlled water. By the 1st century before the Common Era, Petra was a metropolis in full bloom, its population swelling to perhaps 30,000 people, all sustained by the intricate web of hydraulic engineering. Every day, the system proved its worth, transforming the desert basin into a thriving hub of commerce and culture. The main colonnaded street bustled with activity, the air filled with the mingled sounds of haggling merchants, the scent of exotic spices, and the ever-present murmur of water flowing through nearby channels and fountains. This was the Nabatean Golden Age, the ultimate expression of their desert ingenuity. The water network did more than just quench thirst, it powered the city's economy. Downstream from the main reservoirs, workshops for pottery production and textile dyeing sprang up. Potters relied on a constant supply of water for mixing clay and cleaning their wheels, while dyers used vast amounts to create the vibrant colors for which Nabatean textiles were famous. The system's abundance allowed for these water-intensive industries to flourish, turning raw materials into valuable trade goods. But the most vital economic function remained servicing the endless stream of trade caravans. Imagine a long line of camels, weary from weeks crossing the Arabian desert, finally arriving at the city's gates. The first and most critical stop was not a market, but a water station. Here, the animals could drink their fill from large public troughs, while their handlers refreshed themselves at a nearby fountain. This reliable hospitality was the cornerstone of Petra's wealth, ensuring that every caravan saw the city not as a perilous outpost, but as an indispensable sanctuary. This engineered abundance even trickled into the private sphere. For the city's elite, the water system enabled displays of opulence that defied the arid surroundings. Wealthy homeowners channeled water into their walled compounds, creating lush courtyard gardens with fruit trees, fragrant flowers, and decorative pools. These private oases were powerful status symbols, a clear demonstration that their owners commanded a generous share of the city's lifeblood. The sound of a small fountain in a private garden was the ultimate luxury, a constant reminder of the peace and prosperity secured by Nabatean engineering. This was the system operating at its absolute peak, a perfect symbiosis of human ambition and environmental mastery. Yet this very height of sophistication and interdependence carried within it a quiet vulnerability, a reliance on a balance so delicate that even a single disruption could set in motion a chain of events with profound consequences. A deep tremor shook the very foundations of the city. Without warning, the ground itself could shift, a powerful shudder traveling through the sandstone bedrock. For a system built on precision and perfect alignment, this was a deeply challenging event. A seismic shift of sufficient strength could fracture the waterproof linings of cisterns, collapse sections of rock-cut channels, and misalign the delicate terracotta pipelines. Geological studies of the region confirm that significant earth movements did affect the Petra area during its long history. The evidence is sometimes subtle, a hairline crack running through a once seamless plaster lining, or more dramatic, like a section of the Siq Conduit where the carved channel was completely sheared off and later patched with a rough stone repair. This reveals a critical truth. The Nabatean water system was not a static monument. It was a living network engaged in a constant effort for its own preservation. Maintenance was not a choice but a continuous necessity, a cycle of wear and restoration that tested the community's resources and resolve. Beyond the sudden force of earth movements, there was a slower, more gradual challenge. Paleoclimatic data, gathered from sources like sediment cores, suggests the region may have experienced long-term shifts towards a drier climate. Years or even decades of reduced rainfall would have placed the entire system under a different kind of pressure. The great reservoirs, designed to be replenished by seasonal floods, would have begun to empty. The steady flow from the springs would have lessened. A system built for abundance now had to navigate a new reality of scarcity. The Nabateans were not passive in the face of these challenges. Archaeological finds show repeated repairs to key infrastructure. They adapted their techniques, using different types of mortar and patching materials to mend the cracks that time and tectonics opened. They likely deepened cisterns and cleared silt from channels with even greater urgency, striving to maximize every drop of a shrinking resource. For a time, their ingenuity and proactive culture of upkeep kept the water flowing, but the strain was cumulative. Each earth movement required a massive communal effort to restore. Each dry season stretched the reserves a little thinner. This constant effort to sustain their engineered landscape against the forces of nature made the entire society vulnerable. It was a delicate balance, one that would be profoundly tested not by a shift in the climate, but by a fundamental change in the political world that had once nurtured their unique genius. The year 106 of the Common Era brought a new, overwhelming force to the gates of Petra. Roman legions marched in, not as conquerors who sought to destroy the city, but as administrators intent on absorbing its wealth into their vast empire. The independent Nabatean kingdom was no more, and with its political autonomy vanished the singular focus that had sustained its hydraulic miracle for centuries. The Romans brought their own grand vision for water management, one based on scale and imperial standardization. They were masters of the aqueduct, and they began to construct these monumental channels to bring water from more distant sources. This new technology was impressive, a symbol of Roman power, but it represented a fundamental shift in philosophy. The intricate, localized Nabatean network, so finely tuned to the desert's rhythms, was no longer the sole priority. The subtle genius of the diversion dams and the carefully maintained Siq Conduit now had to compete for attention and resources with Rome's larger, more centralized projects. Evidence from the archaeological record shows this period of awkward coexistence. Some Nabatean systems continued to function, receiving necessary repairs, while others were slowly left behind or incorporated as secondary lines into the new Roman network. The focus of the entire region was changing. As Rome solidified its control over the Arabian trade, the routes began to shift. New ports and overland highways favored by the empire drew commerce away from Petra's secluded canyon. The city's strategic importance, the very reason for its existence, began to fade. Investment followed the trade, and the tax revenues that had once funded an army of specialized engineers to maintain every channel and cistern were now directed elsewhere. The knowledge of the original builders, passed down through generations, was no longer valued in the same way. Why maintain a complex, decentralized system when a few large aqueducts could supply the city's core? This was the slow, quiet beginning of a transition. The forgotten engineers had built a system that required not just skill, but a deep, cultural commitment to its upkeep. Under Roman rule, that commitment gradually dissolved, leaving the city's water security increasingly fragile, its resilience slowly eroding with each passing season. The legacy of the Nabatean masters was not erased in a day, but it was steadily overlooked, setting the stage for a final, challenging moment that would test the city's weakened foundations. The city's intricate dance with water could not survive the gradual transformation of the society that created it. A major earth movement in the year 363 dealt a severe blow, damaging cisterns and disrupting the aqueducts the Romans had built. This was a moment from which the city struggled to recover. The economic engine that funded constant repairs was already faltering as trade routes shifted decisively toward the sea. The wealth that once supported a specialized class of engineers, masons, and plasterers no longer flowed into Petra. These artisans, the keepers of a deep practical science, found their skills were less in demand. Their children, looking toward a different future, had little reason to learn the precise formulas for waterproof plaster or the subtle art of reading a water gradient. Knowledge passed along through generations by word and practice began to fade, one untrained apprentice at a time. The identity of the city's inhabitants was changing too. As the bustling trade center quieted, the population became smaller, more rural, and focused on immediate needs. Their connection to the grand, city-wide hydraulic vision of the Nabateans grew more distant. The system was not so much abandoned as it was slowly misunderstood. A channel might be repaired with whatever was available. A cistern might be used until its lining could no longer hold water, and then it would be left behind. The original integrated network broke into isolated, struggling parts. This is how a technological marvel fades, not with a bang, but with a long, slow whisper. The practical wisdom of shaping a desert environment was lost when the community that nurtured that wisdom was fundamentally altered. The great quiet that fell over Petra's canyons was not just an absence of people, but an absence of understanding. The stone channels and empty reservoirs became quiet monuments to a science no longer remembered. waiting for a future generation to learn their language once more. That process of recovery now falls to archaeologists and engineers who patiently piece together the clues left in the stone, striving to hear the echoes of the master builders and grasp the full scope of what was achieved here. A gloved hand carefully brushes away a layer of wind-blown sand, revealing a smooth, curved edge of terracotta. Inch by inch, a pipe emerges, still snugly fitted into the next, its bitumen seal intact after 2,000 years. This quiet moment of discovery in a Petra excavation trench was a dramatic revelation, a direct link to the minds of the ancient engineers. The scientific quest to understand Petra's water system began in earnest in the 20th century, as archaeologists shifted their gaze from the grand facades to the subtle scars and channels etched into the landscape. Early surveys could trace the obvious rock-cut conduits, but the full scale of the hidden network remained a mystery. It was like trying to understand a human body by only looking at the skin, unaware of the veins and arteries beneath. The true breakthrough came with advanced technologies like ground-penetrating radar, which allowed researchers to see into the earth without lifting a single stone. Suddenly, they could map the precise paths of underground pipelines and locate concealed cisterns, revealing a hydraulic grid of astonishing complexity and reach. Three-dimensional modeling then brought this hidden system to life, allowing experts to simulate water flow and calculate reservoir capacities with remarkable accuracy. We now know that every natural spring, like the vital Ain Musa, was integrated into a master plan. Archaeologists have meticulously mapped the entire conduit network, from the Great Barrier dams in the high wadis to the smallest distribution channel feeding a neighborhood fountain. Each expedition adds another piece to the puzzle. The discovery of a previously unknown settling basin, for instance, revealed their sophisticated methods for water purification. Finding a series of check dams on a remote hillside showed how they managed watersheds far from the city center. Leading researchers in the field now describe the Nabateans not merely as clever builders, but as master hydrologists who viewed their entire territory as an integrated water catchment system. This radical reassessment forces us to abandon old notions of a mysterious, lost city. Petra was not a miracle, it was a meticulously engineered machine, and its fuel was water. Every newly uncovered pipe or cistern provides another clue, another day to point in reverse engineering one of history's most resilient and sustainable water systems. This ongoing archaeological detective work does more than just illuminate the past. It offers tangible inspiration for our own future as we face similar challenges of scarcity in a changing world. The silent, sealed cisterns of Petra hold a blueprint for our own thirsty world. Modern engineers facing severe water challenges are now looking back, discovering that these ancient techniques offer surprisingly sophisticated solutions. In arid regions across the globe, from the American Southwest to the Middle East, the Nabatean principles of capturing unpredictable rainfall and maximizing local storage are experiencing a powerful revival. The core idea is elegantly simple. Why fight the natural rhythm of the desert when you can work with it? Today's rainwater harvesting projects are direct descendants of Petra's strategy. Instead of letting powerful stormwater rush through city streets and drain away, modern systems are designed to slow it down, guide it, and store it, just as the low diversion dams did in the wadis. This approach transforms a potential problem, urban flooding, into a valuable resource. One compelling case study comes from Jordan itself, where contemporary water managers have studied Nabatean cistern designs to improve rooftop rainwater collection in rural communities. The ancient knowledge of using local materials and gravity-fed distribution is proving more sustainable and cost-effective than complex, energy-intensive pumping systems. The Nabatean focus on decentralized storage is another lesson resonating today. Rather than relying solely on a few massive, centralized reservoirs, modern sustainable design encourages smaller, scattered cisterns, much like the private reservoirs found under Petra's homes. This creates a more resilient network, reducing the risk of a single point of failure and empowering individual communities to manage their own water security. The forgotten engineers understood that true sustainability was not just about grand structures, but about a philosophy deeply woven into the fabric of daily life. Their legacy challenges a modern assumption that newer technology is always superior. Sometimes, the most advanced solution is one that has been patiently waiting in the desert for 2,000 years, reminding us that the greatest innovations are often those that listen most closely to the earth. This practical revival forces a profound reevaluation of their place in history, moving them from a historical footnote to pioneering figures in the long story of human ingenuity. The legacy of Petra's engineers finds its true significance not in isolation, but when placed beside the other great waterworks of the ancient world. The Romans, of course, are renowned for their monumental aqueducts, those soaring arches carrying water across vast distances. This was a technology of conquest and urban scale, designed to deliver immense volumes to support huge populations and lavish public spaces. Its philosophy was one of shaping the landscape, guiding rivers and hills to serve the needs of an empire. Far to the east, Persian engineers perfected the Qanat, a gently sloping underground tunnel that tapped into mountain water sources. This was a brilliant answer to gradual water loss, a way to bring groundwater to the surface through gravity alone, creating fertile valleys in an otherwise stark terrain. Even the Maya, in the humid rainforests of Mesoamerica, constructed intricate reservoirs to capture tropical rains, their survival depending on managing abundance rather than scarcity. Each of these systems was a masterpiece, yet each was a response to a different environmental reality. What sets the Nabatean system apart is its core philosophy. It was not about transporting water from a distant, reliable source, nor about slowly drawing from an underground reserve. It was an intricate dance with nature's intensity, designed to capture the desert's most powerful and unpredictable events, the sudden desert downpour. Where Roman engineering often sought to reshape the local environment, Nabatean engineering sought a profound collaboration with it. Their technology was less about monumental scale and more about precise, adaptive integration. They used the landscape itself as their primary tool, carving channels into canyon walls and placing dams not to stop water, but to gently persuade it to change its course. This deep, localized intelligence made their system incredibly resilient and perfectly suited to its specific context. While the Roman aqueduct is a symbol of imperial power, the Nabatean water network is a testament to environmental harmony. It is this unique focus that elevates these early engineers from mere historical footnotes to genuine pioneers of thoughtful design. Their work demonstrates that the highest form of engineering is not always about imposing a grand solution, but about listening to the whispers of a place and responding with elegant, efficient ingenuity. This final appreciation reframes their entire achievement not as a lost secret, but as a timeless lesson in working with the world rather than against it. A single spring could never have sustained a city of 30,000. This is one of the most persistent myths about Petra, the romantic notion of a lone, miraculous fountain in the desert. The archaeological truth is far more compelling. Petra's water security did not rely on one source, but on a diverse and resilient portfolio. The system drew from every available trickle, from the steady flow of the Moses spring to the sudden, powerful surges captured from a dozen different watersheds. It was this very multiplicity that made the city so robust. If one spring diminished or one channel was damaged, the wider network could compensate. The idea of a single point of failure is a modern fiction projected onto an ancient people who understood redundancy better than we often do today. Another common story pins the city's transition entirely on the Roman annexation. While the political shift was certainly a turning point, it was not a simple off switch. The Romans did not dismantle the water system. In fact, they continued to use and even expand upon it with their own aqueducts. The deeper challenge was a slow unraveling of the social and economic fabric that had maintained the Nabatean network for centuries. As trade routes shifted and the city's economic importance faded, the tax revenue and specialized labor required for constant, meticulous upkeep gradually disappeared. The system did not collapse, it was slowly forgotten, piece by piece, a process taking generations. Then there are the tales of hidden tunnels and lost super technologies. The reality is that no secret knowledge or extraordinary tools were required. The true genius of the Nabatean engineers was their profound observational skill and their mastery of simple physics. They used gravity, they used water pressure, they used local materials like bitumen and lime plaster. Their methods were brilliant, but they were not magical. They were the product of centuries of accumulated, practical wisdom passed down through generations of artisans. By letting go of these cinematic fantasies, we can appreciate the real, tangible achievement. This was not a city built on a secret, but on a system, a reproducible and deeply intelligent approach to environmental management. Honoring their legacy means preserving the physical evidence of their work and learning from the principles they so perfectly demonstrated, a task that feels more urgent with every passing year. A silent, empty cistern carved into a cliff face is not just a hole in the rock, it is a library. Every hydraulic feature you encounter in Petra, from the grandest dam to the smallest channel, is a page in the story of its creators. To walk these ruins is to learn their language, to see the landscape not as a static monument, but as a living record of ingenuity. The first clue is often the most subtle, a shallow, linear groove carved along a canyon wall. This is a transmission channel, and its gentle, unwavering path reveals the Nabatean obsession with control. Follow its course and you will find it often leads to a square, man-made opening in the rock. Peer inside and you are looking into a cistern, its interior still bearing the faint, grey sheen of the waterproof plaster that once held a family's or a neighborhood's water security. These private reservoirs, tucked beneath courtyards and homes, speak of a society that empowered its citizens with self-reliance. Then there are the more dramatic structures, the low, robust walls spanning dry riverbeds. These barrier dams may look like simple piles of stone, but their placement is a masterstroke of hydrological logic. They were built exactly where the water's power was greatest, a deliberate meeting point with the flash flood. The stone blocks are not uniform, but they are perfectly interlocked, a testament to the dry stone masonry that relied on friction and weight rather than mortar to withstand immense pressure. Standing before one, you can almost hear the echo of the engineered negotiation that happened here, the moment wild water was persuaded into civilization. Perhaps the most profound experience is finding a terracotta pipe still connected, emerging from the earth. This simple cylinder of baked clay, sealed with ancient tar, represents the peak of their technical ambition, the moment they commanded water to defy gravity and flow uphill. To hold one is to touch the mind of an engineer who solved a problem with elegant simplicity 2,000 years ago. The emotional weight of these places comes from this tangible connection. You are not just looking at a ruin, you are standing in the footprint of a human intellect that looked at a desert and saw not a wasteland, but a system waiting to be understood. These stones whisper a universal message about our own capacity to meet challenges with creativity and respect. The true legacy of Petra is not merely in the water they mastered, but in the enduring proof of resilience they left behind, a quiet encouragement etched into the very bedrock for all who follow. From the moment they guided a flash flood to change its course, to the final delivery of water into a private garden, the Nabatean engineers demonstrated a complete philosophy of survival. We have traced the path of their genius, a journey from the Great Barrier dams through the silent, gravity-fed channels and into the vast, sealed cisterns that served as the city's beating heart. This was not a collection of random structures, but a single, integrated machine for living, built upon principles that feel remarkably urgent today. Their story teaches us that true resilience lies in working with the rhythms of nature, not against them. They achieved sustainability through a holistic vision, where every component, from the grandest reservoir to the smallest private cistern, played a role in a community-wide plan. Perhaps the most poignant lesson is the fragility of knowledge itself. The system did not fail because its design was flawed, but because the specialized, hands-on wisdom required to maintain it was gradually lost when the society that valued it transformed. The silent stones of this ancient place stand as a permanent reminder. They do not speak of conquest, but of collaboration, offering enduring proof that human ingenuity, when applied with patience and respect for the world, can create wonders against the most impossible odds. What are your thoughts on this incredible civilization? Share your reflections in the comments, and if you were captivated by these forgotten masters of the desert, subscribe for more journeys into the hidden secrets of our past.